Greetings to everyone, friends. Poland is starting to close off its border with Ukraine, and to me, this looks extremely strange, but it is what it is. Now let's analyze this situation. In my opinion, this is extremely important for a large number of Ukrainians, and in general, this may indicate the direction of development of NATO's eastern flank, which shows that today Ukraine is also seen as a certain threat to the European Union. And no one is even afraid to show this publicly. So let's figure it out. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like. Thank you all for your comments. Let's start with today. The Polish outlet RMF24 literally, about an hour ago published information that Poland is tightening control on the border with Ukraine. And this is being done more or less the same way it all started on the border with Belarus. Poland intends to build a modern electronic barrier on the border with Ukraine, costing approximately $120 million. Just imagine, $120 million is quite a large sum, and this money will actually be spent to protect themselves from Ukraine. What exactly is being planned? First of all, the installation of special poles, daytime surveillance cameras, as well as thermal imaging cameras for night surveillance. According to Polish services, the decision is related to increased security threats amid Russia's armed aggression against Ukraine. The situation on the eastern border remains tense, and the activity of criminal groups and the risks of sabotage require additional preventive measures. And they also declare the main goal of all this as, firstly, to make illegal border crossings more difficult, increase the speed of incident detection, and strengthen the response of security services. But at the same time, I want to remind you that Poland is not and has never been, let's say, a popular option for leaving Ukraine, for those who cross outside of official checkpoints, for one simple reason. Because several years ago, Poland officially made a decision that those so-called draft dodgers who leave Ukraine for Poland, if they are caught by the border service or the police, it doesn't matter at all. In general, if it is confirmed that they entered Poland illegally, they are immediately deported back to Ukraine. That is, there have been many such cases, but everyone has known about this for a long time, and that's why Poland is no longer considered as an option. But we see that despite the fact that there are almost no such cases, the issue here is something else. But who are they defending against and what are they preparing for? Because I have two options here, and you can choose the one that suits you best. The first option. They want to defend themselves against possible sabotage groups that might come through. First, for example, they might enter from Terezis, that is from the territory of Belarus, into the territory of Ukraine, and then from the territory of Ukraine, they might enter, for example, into the territory of Poland, in order to carry out some kind of sabotage there. Although, again, in that case, yes, why block it then and spend such crazy amounts of money to take control of the entire Ukrainian border? It's unclear. The second, and more likely in my opinion, is that Poland wants to defend itself directly from Ukraine and Ukrainians. And there are also reasons for this, which can also be clearly traced. If you look at various speeches by Polish politicians, they are not so much afraid that someone will go and storm Warsaw. Like, for example, in Ukraine, everyone is being scared. Yes, if Russia comes. But here the bigger problem is with weapons. Yes, that's why right now there are just insane amounts of unregistered weapons in Ukraine. In fact, the black market for weapons is quite large. And at least once a week you can see some reports and news about what's happening in Ukraine. They caught some soldier with weapons there and another soldier with weapons somewhere else. One had grenades, another had some ammunition, someone else had a whole arsenal, and so on. And in fact, in my opinion, Poland wants to build this wall in order to prevent various criminal groups in Ukraine from delivering these weapons and selling them to other gangs already on Polish territory, so that there is no smuggling. And in fact, they are building this wall so that illegal weapons in Ukraine, which are worth a lot of money, do not end up on Polish territory. Because not only various gangs involved in illegal activities can take advantage of this, but also those who, and for example, Russian intelligence services can also take advantage of this in the same way, forming weapon caches on Polish territory. This illegal weaponry, which will be sold from Ukraine to Poland, can then be used, for example, for terrorist attacks or for other very, very unpleasant things. So in fact, there is no betrayal here. Poland is simply taking care of its own security and making sure that things that shouldn't enter Polish territory don't get in. And here the question may also arise, what are the Ukrainian border guards doing in this case? And how can they supply? How can they let these weapons through? How can they not see them? It's double security and so on. Especially since the border is effectively locked down against those so-called damn draft dodgers on the Ukrainian side. There are also different squads, there are various thermal imagers and drones, and all of this is being monitored. But let's be honest, there is one problem in Ukraine that undermines the trust, let's say, from the European partners. Although they don't talk about it and probably never will in their lives. And this single biggest and most important problem is corruption. And in Poland, they understand very well that where you can't move anything across the border for free, for example, tens of thousands of dollars might appear in the form of a bribe. And on some, let's say, section of the border, such a corridor will appear that can be used. That's why the Poles, as we can see, don't trust the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine. And they actually want to take the situation under their personal control so that they don't depend on anyone. That's why cameras will be installed, thermal images will be placed in order to immediately detect such situations. And to immediately take such situations completely under their own control. Is this good or bad? In my opinion, it's good, and for one simple reason. Because Poland, in this way, first of all, protects itself and everyone who lives on the territory of Poland. Secondly, it clearly shows that they are ready to control this situation unilaterally. And in fact, this will directly affect the long-term and lasting security on the territory of Poland. So, that's the situation. What do you think about this? Be sure to write your thoughts in the comments. It will be very interesting to hear and read your opinion. Thank you all. See you next time.